Nara's frustration grew. Her species valued direct confrontation. Complicated maneuvers were seen as weak. But this human was using something different, a combination of timing, space awareness, and psychological manipulation. 3 minutes into the fight, and no significant damage had been done to either fighter, but the energy had shifted. The alien crowd's initial mockery was transforming into curious tension. Jae-sung's breathing remained controlled. Each movement was calculated, every step purposeful. He wasn't trying to win by force, but by understanding his opponent's fundamental weaknesses. Suddenly, Nara changed tactics. Instead of large sweeping movements, she began releasing rapid, precise strikes. Her multiple limbs became a blur of potential damage. Any normal opponent would have been overwhelmed, but Jae-sung was not normal. He seemed to read her intentions milliseconds before she executed them. When she targeted his left side, he was already moving right. When she attempted a ground attack, he was airborne. The arena's environmental systems detected increased heart rates, not from Jae-sung but from Nara. Her biological responses were showing signs of increasing stress. A small cut appeared on Nara's exoskeleton. The first time. She had been wounded in 247 fights. It was minor, but symbolically massive. The human was not just surviving, he was competing. Alien spectators began whispering. Betting platforms started shifting odds. Something unexpected was happening. Nara's neural implants began overheating from constant recalculations. Her perfect combat system was being challenged by something it couldn't easily categorize: human unpredictability. Jae-sung understood something fundamental that most fighters missed. Combat was not just about strength, but about understanding your opponent's psychology, movement patterns, and inherent limitations. Each dodge, each strategic retreat was teaching Nara something she had never experienced: true, adaptive combat. The first phase of the fight was ending. No clear winner yet. But one thing was becoming crystal clear. This was not going to be another quick human defeat. Something remarkable was unfolding in the galactic arena, and everyone was watching. The fight continued. Blood dripped from Nara's exoskeleton, a sight she had never experienced in 247 previous fights. Her blue-tinted skin showed signs of strain, tiny fractures spreading across her metallic armor. Jae-sung had done something impossible. He was breaking her perfect combat record. The arena's atmosphere changed. Alien spectators who had been laughing and mocking now watched in stunned silence. Their champion was struggling against a human, a species they had consistently considered inferior. Jae-sung's movements revealed a different kind of combat intelligence. He wasn't just dodging, he was systematically dismantling Nara's fighting strategy. Each movement was a calculated response, not a reaction. Nara's neural implants began sending warning signals. Her computational systems were overheating, struggling to predict Jae-sung's next move. Humans were supposed to be predictable, linear, simple. But this human was anything but simple. His military training had prepared him for something more than physical combat. He understood psychological warfare. Every time Nara expected a direct confrontation, he would shift, creating uncertainty. The arena's tracking systems could barely capture his movements. Cameras blurred, unable to follow his quick, unexpected transitions. It was as if he was playing a different game entirely. Nara's confidence began cracking. Her massive frame, once a symbol of absolute dominance, now seemed less intimidating. Jae-sung moved around her like she was a slow, predictable machine. Alien betting platforms started changing odds. The 99% certainty of Nara's victory was rapidly diminishing. Humans were becoming an unknown variable, dangerous and unpredictable. Small cuts continued appearing on Nara's exoskeleton. Each one was a psychological wound, challenging everything she knew about combat. Her species had never encountered an opponent who fought like this. Jae-sung's strategy was revolutionary. He wasn't trying to match alien strength. He was exploiting weaknesses, creating openings, and moving with a fluidity that defied traditional combat logic. The fight was no longer about physical confrontation. It had become a complex dance of strategy, timing, and psychological manipulation. Nara's combat systems began sending emergency signals. Her neural implants were struggling, overheating, from constant recalculations. She had never experienced an opponent who could consistently break her predictive models. Alien spectators leaned forward, their multiple eyes fixed on the arena. Something extraordinary was happening. A human was not just surviving against a champion. He was potentially winning. Jae-sung's breathing remained steady. Each movement was purposeful, calculated. He wasn't fighting with anger or aggression. He was solving a complex problem, using his entire body as a strategic tool. The arena's environmental systems detected increasing tension. Biological responses from both fighters showed a dramatic shift. Nara's stress levels were rising while Jae-sung remained calm. A fundamental truth was emerging. Combat was more than physical strength. It was about adaptability, intelligence, and the ability to read and manipulate your opponent's psychology. Nara's previous 247 victories seemed to mean nothing now. Everything she knew about fighting was being challenged by this single human opponent. The turning point was clear. This was no longer a simple fight. It was a demonstration of human potential, a challenge to established galactic combat understanding. Something remarkable was happening in the arena, and the entire galaxy was watching. The fight continued, but everything had changed. The arena's gravitational systems began to fluctuate. Most fighters would have been disoriented, but Jae-sung understood environmental dynamics better than anyone. Where others saw chaos, he saw opportunity. Nara's massive body moved with decreasing efficiency. Her neural implants were failing, unable to process the complex combat scenario. Each movement became slower, more predictable. Jae-sung had been waiting for this moment. Using the arena's gravitational shifts, he launched himself in a trajectory that defied computational prediction. His body moved like a carefully designed weapon, not of muscle but of calculated intelligence. One precise strike. Time seemed to slow down. The entire arena watched as Jae-sung's hand moved with surgical precision. Years of training, months of preparation, seconds of perfect execution converged into a single moment. His strike targeted a microscopic weakness in Nara's exoskeleton, a point her own systems had overlooked. It wasn't about strength. It was about understanding. The impact created a sound unlike any previous arena battle, a combination of mechanical failure and biological response that echoed through the entire stadium. Nara's massive body began to collapse. Her neural systems were shutting down, unable to process the unexpected defeat. Computational models failed. Predictive algorithms crashed. Alien spectators sat in complete silence. A human had just defeated the undefeatable. Jae-sung didn't celebrate. He didn't raise his hands or show excitement. He simply stood, breathing controlled and steady, demonstrating that this was more than a fight. This was a message. Humans were not just another species, they were adaptable, intelligent, unpredictable. The arena's tracking systems confirmed what everyone had witnessed. Total victory, complete domination. Not through brute force, but through strategic intelligence. Nara's body hit the ground with a thunderous impact. Her neural implants flickered, then went dark. Decades of combat superiority collapsed in a single moment. Betting platforms across multiple star systems went into shock. Algorithms designed to predict outcomes suddenly became obsolete. Humans were no longer a predictable variable. Jae-sung's team watched with professional pride. This wasn't just a fight. This was a demonstration of human potential, a message to the galaxy about what humanity could achieve. The arena's environmental systems began recording every detail, every movement. This fight would be studied for generations. Alien medical teams rushed forward to assess Nara. Her condition was stable, but her combat reputation was forever shattered. No longer the undefeated champion, no longer the symbol of alien superiority, Jae-sung remained motionless, his eyes scanning the shocked audience. He wasn't a hero. He was a representative, showing the galaxy that humans were more than they appeared. Technological superiority meant nothing against adaptive intelligence. The breakthrough was complete. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not with weapons, not with technology, but with something far more powerful: understanding. The arena remained silent for several long minutes after Jae-sung's victory. Alien species from across the galaxy stared in disbelief. Humans had been considered a young, primitive species just decades ago. Now everything had changed. Diplomatic channels began buzzing immediately. Communication networks across multiple star systems transmitted the fight's recordings. What had just happened was more than a simple combat victory. It was a statement about human potential. Jae-sung was escorted from the arena, but not as a typical victor. Scientific teams wanted to understand him. Military strategists requested detailed analysis of his combat techniques. Diplomatic representatives saw an opportunity for broader galactic negotiations. Nara Kang's defeat meant more than a personal loss. Her entire species had built a reputation on combat superiority. Now that reputation lay shattered on the arena floor. Neural implants would be studied. Combat techniques would be re-evaluated. Human research teams began receiving immediate communication requests. Universities, military academies, and diplomatic institutions wanted to understand the strategy behind Jae-sung's victory. How could a single fighter change galactic perceptions? The economic impact was immediate. Betting platforms crashed. Trade agreements that had been based on species combat rankings suddenly needed revision. Humans were no longer a footnote in galactic interactions. Political leaders from Earth received urgent communication requests. This wasn't just a fight. This was a diplomatic transformation. Humans had proven they were more than a young, developing species. Jae-sung himself remained calm. He understood he was more than an individual fighter. He was a representative of human potential. Years of training had prepared him not just for physical combat, but for the massive cultural impact his victory would create. Alien species began reviewing their understanding of humans. Previous assumptions about human limitations were being systematically dismantled. If one human could do this, what could an entire species achieve? Research teams started analyzing every moment of the fight. Each movement, each strategic decision became a subject of intense study. Computational models were being rewritten. Combat strategies were being reconsidered. The galactic community had received a message. Humans were adaptable, intelligent, unpredictable. Technological superiority meant nothing against true strategic intelligence. Diplomatic channels opened. Trade negotiations began to shift. Species that had previously ignored humanity now wanted communication. Understanding. Jae-sung's victory was more than a personal achievement. It was a moment that would be remembered in galactic history. The day humans proved they were more than anyone had expected. The arena slowly emptied, but the impact of those few moments would be felt for generations. Humanity had arrived, not with weapons, not with technology, but with something far more powerful. Understanding. 1. Fight was over. But a new chapter in galactic history had just begun. The massive arena gleamed with cold metallic surfaces, its circular stage surrounded by thousands of alien spectators from across the galaxy. Jae-sung Park stood quietly, his dark eyes scanning the environment with calm precision. He wore simple, black combat gear, fitted closely to his athletic frame, which looked almost fragile compared to the massive alien warriors surrounding the fighting platform. Nara Kang watched him from across the arena, her muscular blue-tinted body standing, nearly 8 feet tall. Her species, known for their exceptional combat skills, had dominated intergalactic fighting competitions for centuries. Humans were considered newcomers, rookies who barely understood advanced combat techniques. The arena's announcer, a holographic projection with a thundering voice, began introducing the fighters. Today's match features our reigning champion, Nara Kang from the Crotal Planetary System, against human representative Jae-sung Park from Earth. Whispers and low rumbling sounds erupted from the alien crowd. Most believed this would be another quick defeat for the human. Humans were known for their technological innovations, but physical combat? That was a different story. Jae-sung remained motionless, his breathing steady and controlled. Years of military training had prepared him for this moment. He wasn't just a random fighter. He was a carefully selected representative of Earth's most advanced combat training program. Nara Kang flexed her multiple joint limbs, each movement displaying incredible strength and flexibility. Her exoskeleton gleamed under the arena's bright lights, metallic plates shifting with each subtle movement. She had defeated 247 opponents from various planetary systems, and this human would be her 248th victory. The preliminary checks began. Medical scanners verified each fighter's health and equipment. Weapons were prohibited, but enhanced body modifications were allowed. Nara's body was a living weapon, genetically enhanced muscles, reinforced bone structure, and neural implants that could calculate combat strategies in milliseconds. Jae-sung appeared almost primitive in comparison. No visible enhancements, no technological augmentations, just human determination. Arena protocols required a pre-fight acknowledgement. Nara approached Jae-sung, her towering figure casting a massive shadow. "Human," she spoke through translation devices, "surrender now and preserve your dignity. No species has ever defeated me." Jae-sung looked up, meeting her gaze without blinking. His response was simple and direct. "We'll see." The crowd's anticipation grew. Betting platforms across multiple star systems were flooding with wagers, almost 99% betting against the human. The odds were astronomically against Jae-sung. Preparation zones were cleared. Combat platforms activated, generating force fields and gravitational stabilizers. These would ensure fighter safety and prevent catastrophic injuries during the intense fight. Referees, mechanical beings programmed for absolute neutrality, took their positions. Their metallic bodies reflected the arena's lighting, creating an intimidating backdrop of technological precision. Jae-sung's team, a small group of human researchers and military strategists, watched from a designated viewing area. They had spent months analyzing Nara's fighting techniques, developing strategies that might give their representative a fighting chance. As the final countdown began, the arena fell into an expectant silence. Alien spectators leaned forward, their multiple eyes fixed on the two fighters. Some had traveled entire star systems to witness what they believed would be another swift demonstration of alien superiority. Nara Kang positioned herself, her body a perfect combat machine. Muscles tensed, neural implants began rapid calculations predicting potential human movement patterns. Jae-sung took a deep breath. Everything he had trained for, everything his team had prepared, would be tested in the next few moments. The fight bell rang. 2 warriors. 1 arena. Countless expectations. The galaxy watched and waited. The moment the fight began, Nara Kang moved with shocking speed. Her multi-jointed limbs twisted in impossible angles, striking faster than most biological eyes could track. She launched herself toward Jae-sung, expecting an immediate knockout. But Jae-sung was not where she expected. He had studied alien combat techniques for years. His military training focused on understanding non-human movement patterns. While other fighters tried to match alien strength, Jae-sung learned to predict and counter. The first strike missed by millimeters. Nara's massive arm swept through empty space where Jae-sung had been just a fraction of a second earlier. He had anticipated her movement and shifted sideways with minimal effort. Alien spectators gasped. This was unusual. Most human fighters would have been crushed immediately. Nara's neural implants began rapid recalculations. Her combat systems were designed to predict opponent movements with 99.8% accuracy. Yet this human was disrupting every single prediction. Jae-sung moved like water, not fighting her strength directly, but flowing around it. Each time Nara attacked, he was already gone. His movements were small, precise, requiring minimal energy. The arena's advanced tracking system struggled to capture his exact positioning. Cameras seemed to blur when trying to follow his quick, unpredictable movements.